Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel, Meetings Assistance for Jehovah's Witnesses. I hope you are all doing well. In this video, we're going to analyze and answer the questions from this week's Watchtower study. This study corresponds to the week of November 3rd to 9th and is titled, How to Win the Battle Against Wrong Desires. Without further delay, let's begin. Let's look at question number 1. What struggle do we all have? We all have the struggle of resisting desires or temptations that do not please Jehovah. Additional comments. 1 Corinthians 10:13 reminds us that temptations are common to everyone, which helps us not to feel alone in our struggle. This verse strengthens the idea that every Christian faces similar challenges and can find comfort knowing that others are also striving to remain faithful. The paragraph highlights that we have Jehovah's help to overcome. This aligns with Philippians 4:13, which says that everything is possible with His strength. With His constant support, no desire or temptation is impossible to resist if we fully trust in Him. Let's look at question number 2. What temptations might some Christians and Bible students be facing? See also the pictures. Some Christians and Bible students may face temptations related to sexual immorality, pornography, drug use, or excessive drinking. Additional comments. James 1:14 shows that temptations arise from our own desires, highlighting the importance of knowing our weaknesses. By identifying them, we can ask Jehovah for help before falling, thereby strengthening our spiritual and emotional resistance. Romans 7:21 reflects the inner struggle between the desire to do what is right and the inclination toward what is bad. This awareness teaches us humility and reminds us that the battle against wrong inclinations is ongoing, but with God's guidance, we can stay in control. Let's look at question number 3. What might someone start to feel when struggling again and again with the same wrong desire? They may begin to feel weak, discouraged, and think that Jehovah no longer approves of them for still having the same wrong desire. Additional comments. The paragraph shows that these negative feelings do not reflect the reality of God's love. According to Psalm 103:14, Jehovah understands our human limitations and does not judge us harshly, demonstrating His compassion even when we continue to struggle with the same weaknesses. The fact that questions are asked to help us understand the origin of such feelings shows the value of self-examination. Proverbs 4:23 advises us to guard our heart, since from it flow the sources of life. Identifying what we feel is a key step in strengthening our relationship with Jehovah and remaining firm. Let's move on to the first subheading, How Satan Wants Us to Feel. Question number 4, Part A. What does Satan want us to think? Satan wants us to think that we don't have enough strength to reject temptation. Additional comments. In Matthew 6:13, Jesus taught us to pray for protection from temptation, showing that we are not alone when facing it. This prayer strengthens our confidence that Jehovah can deliver us from the wicked one when we turn to him with faith and constant dependence. Question number 4, Part B. Why are we sure that we have the strength to resist wrong desires? We can be sure we have the strength because Jehovah gives us the power we need to resist wrong desires. Additional comments. Philippians 4:13 confirms that God's power works in us, giving us the ability to remain firm. By recognizing that strength comes from Jehovah and not from ourselves, we develop stronger faith and a resilient attitude toward any desire or pressure. Let's look at question number 5. How do we know that Jehovah is sure we can win the battle against wrong desires? We know that Jehovah trusts we can win because he has assured that a great crowd of faithful people will remain clean and survive the great tribulation. Additional comments. Revelation 7:9 shows a great multitude dressed in white, symbols of purity and spiritual victory. This confirms that Jehovah does not doubt human capacity to remain faithful, as long as we rely on his guidance and divine strength. The fact that Revelation 7:14 says that the faithful have washed their robes highlights the personal effort required to stay clean. Jehovah trusts us because he knows that with faith and constant effort, we can resist wrong desires and maintain his approval. Let's look at questions 6 and 7. What else does Satan want us to believe? Satan wants us to believe that because we have wrong desires, we cannot gain Jehovah's approval or everlasting life. Additional comments. 2 Peter 3:9 shows that Jehovah wants everyone to repent and live, which demonstrates his love and patience. Unlike Satan, Jehovah always offers hope, even to those struggling with wrong desires, because he knows the sincerity of each person's effort. 1 Peter 5:8-9 warns us about Satan's intention to weaken us emotionally. By staying firm in the faith and aware of his tactics, we avoid falling into his deception and strengthen our confidence that Jehovah never stops supporting us as we keep striving to do what is right. Let's move on to the second subheading, how inherited sin can make us feel. Question number 8. What else can make us think that we don't have God's approval or the strength to resist wrong desires? Psalm 51:5, see also, key idea. The inherited sin from Adam and Eve can make us think that we don't have Jehovah's approval or the strength to resist wrong desires. Additional comments. Psalm 51:5 shows that we are born with a tendency toward sin, which explains why we constantly struggle with wrong desires. However, this understanding should not discourage us but motivate us to rely more on Jehovah's mercy and help. Job 14:4 emphasizes that no human can be completely pure on their own. This truth reminds us that our limitations are part of inherited imperfection, but Jehovah understands that and is willing to help us stay spiritually clean through his guidance and forgiveness. Questions 9 and 10, Part A. How did Adam and Eve feel when they became imperfect? See also the picture. Adam and Eve felt guilty, anxious, insecure, and ashamed after becoming imperfect. Additional comments. Romans 5:14 shows that sin continues to affect all humans, even those who didn't sin like Adam. This reminds us that guilt and anxiety are part of imperfection, but they do not determine our value before Jehovah if we keep seeking His help and forgiveness. Questions 9 and 10, Part B. How do we feel because of imperfection? We also feel those same emotions due to inherited imperfection, but we have the hope of forgiveness through Jesus' ransom. Additional comments. 1 Corinthians 6:11 highlights that through the ransom, we can be washed clean and declared righteous. This verse brings comfort because it shows that Jehovah not only understands our negative feelings but also provides the means to overcome them and maintain a clear conscience before Him. Question number 11. If we feel that we don't have the strength to resist wrong desires, what does Romans 6:12 remind us? Romans 6:12 reminds us not to let sin control our actions, since we can choose not to give in to wrong desires. Additional comments. Galatians 5:16 teaches that if we live by the Spirit, we will not carry out the desires of the flesh. This shows that the key to resisting is to maintain an active spiritual life, allowing Jehovah's Spirit to guide our daily decisions. Deuteronomy 30:11-14 indicates that obeying God's commands is not impossible or beyond our reach. This reinforces the idea that Jehovah never demands more than we can do. He fully trusts in our ability to overcome wrong desires with His help. Let's look at question number 12. What should we do if we feel that Jehovah will not approve of us, and why? If we feel that Jehovah does not approve of us, we must remember that He understands our imperfection and knows our struggles. As long as we keep resisting wrong desires and do not practice them, we remain clean before Him. Additional comments. Psalm 103:13-14 shows that Jehovah is understanding and merciful because He remembers that we are dust. This reminder helps us not to become discouraged, since God takes our limitations into account and sincerely values our efforts. 1 John 3:19-20 teaches that Jehovah knows our heart better than we do. Even when we feel unworthy, He sees our sincere intentions, giving us the assurance that His approval does not depend on perfection but on continual effort to do what is right. Let's look at questions number 13 and 14. Why do we know that Jehovah does not withdraw His approval just because we have a wrong desire? We know that Jehovah does not withdraw His approval just because we have a wrong desire, because what really matters is not the desire itself but whether we decide to act on it. As long as we show self-control and do not carry it out, we remain approved by God. Additional comments. 1 Corinthians 6:9-11 shows that some Christians in the past had bad habits but were cleansed and declared righteous after changing their conduct. This demonstrates that Jehovah values the effort to remain clean, even when the desire persists. Ephesians 2:3 reminds us that we all struggle with fleshly inclinations and imperfect thoughts. However, self-control and obedience to God allow us to show that we are not living according to those desires, but according to his will, thus maintaining his approval. Let's move on to the fourth subheading, how to win the battle. Let's look at question number 15. If we want to win the battle against wrong desires, why must we be honest with ourselves? We must be honest with ourselves because recognizing our weaknesses helps us avoid making excuses or deceiving ourselves, which is essential to overcome wrong desires. Additional comments. James 1:22 reminds us that it is not enough to hear the word, we must apply it. Being honest with ourselves means accepting our faults and taking action to correct them, which strengthens our determination to remain faithful. Galatians 6:7 warns that we cannot mock God, for we reap what we sow. This principle emphasizes the importance of taking personal responsibility. When we recognize our own choices, we can seek Jehovah's help with a humble and sincere attitude. Let's look at question number 16. How can you strengthen your determination to do what is right? We can strengthen our determination to do what is right by identifying our weaknesses, avoiding situations that make us vulnerable, and mentally preparing ourselves to reject temptation before it appears. Additional comments. 1 Corinthians 9:26-27 compares the Christian life to that of a disciplined athlete who exercises self-control to reach a goal. Likewise, strengthening determination requires constant spiritual training and self-discipline. Proverbs 22:3 teaches that the prudent person sees danger and hides. This principle motivates us to anticipate temptations and take preventive action, showing wisdom and firmness in our desire to please Jehovah. Let's look at question number 17. What do we learn from Joseph? Genesis 39:7-9, see also the pictures. We learn that, like Joseph, we must decide in advance to remain firm in doing what is right so that when temptation arises, we can reject it without hesitation. Additional comments. Genesis 39:7-9 shows that Joseph acted with conviction and respect for Jehovah, not out of fear of punishment but out of love for God. His example teaches that firm faith and clear principles protect us from impulsive decisions. Joseph's immediate reaction shows that spiritual preparation strengthens self-discipline. Like him, if we cultivate clean thoughts and loyalty to Jehovah before facing trials, we will be able to resist any pressure with confidence and determination. Let's move on to the fifth subheading, keep examining yourselves. Let's look at question number 18. What else can you do to win your battle against wrong desires? 2 Corinthians 13:5. To win the battle against wrong desires, we must examine ourselves frequently and make the necessary changes in our way of thinking and acting so we can respond more quickly when faced with temptation. Additional comments. 2 Corinthians 13:5 urges us to keep testing whether we are in the faith. This self-examination helps us identify attitudes or habits that could weaken us spiritually and strengthen our determination to please Jehovah. Psalm 101:3 highlights the importance of rejecting anything that promotes what is bad, even in entertainment. Applying this principle strengthens our mind and heart, helping us stay clean and react quickly to any temptation. Let's look at question number 19. Why is it very important to avoid making bad decisions in seemingly small matters? It is important to avoid bad decisions in small things because they can gradually lead us to justify more serious actions and drift away from Jehovah's standards. Additional comments. Jeremiah 17:9 warns us that the heart can be deceitful, meaning we must not trust our own justifications. Keeping a conscience trained by God's word protects us from self-deception that weakens our spirituality. Romans 13:14 advises us not to make plans to gratify the desires of the flesh. This means maintaining clear boundaries even in small matters, since true faithfulness is shown through everyday decisions that strengthen our purity and determination. Let's look at question number 20. What will happen to our wrong desires in the future, and what help do we have now? In the future, our wrong desires will completely disappear, and we will be able to serve Jehovah without inner struggle. In the meantime, we have His help and the power of the ransom to resist temptations and remain faithful. Additional comments. The ransom mentioned in John 3:16 guarantees the hope of everlasting life in a world where sin will no longer exist. This promise motivates us to keep fighting now, knowing that temporary effort will bring eternal reward. Philippians 4:13 reminds us that we can have strength for all things with Jehovah's help. Trusting in His power and daily guidance allows us to resist wrong desires today while we look forward to the time when they will be gone forever. Now we will answer the review questions titled, What Would You Say? Question 1. What will help us if we feel that we don't have the strength to resist wrong desires or that we lack Jehovah's approval? Remembering that Jehovah understands our imperfection, knows our struggles, and is always willing to help us. As long as we keep resisting wrong desires and do not carry them out, we continue to have His approval and support. Question 2. How can we win the battle against wrong desires? By being honest with ourselves, recognizing our weaknesses, and avoiding situations that make us vulnerable. We should also prepare mentally before temptation and rely on Jehovah's Spirit to maintain self-control. Question 3. How can we keep examining ourselves? By frequently reviewing our behavior and thoughts, asking ourselves whether we are reacting properly to temptations and whether our decisions reflect Jehovah's principles. This sincere self-examination helps us improve and remain spiritually strong. Well, these have been the answers from this week's Watchtower study. I hope they are very helpful to you, my dear brothers and sisters. We'll see each other next week with a new video. I send you a big hug, and may Jehovah bless and protect you always.